Okay, here's the thing, guys. Have you ever felt like you were just too much inside of a relationship? I'm not talking about not enough. I'm talking about the opposite, where you feel like you're just too much or you just push people away. Well, if so, you may be anxiously attached, and we're going to talk about that in this video. This is by demand, by popular demand. This is for my anxiously attached people, how you might be driving partners or an avoidant person in particular way. And then we're going to talk in future videos about how to heal that and what you can do, because the truth is that all the anxious people also have work to do. It's not just the avoidants. The avoidants get the bad rep, but my anxious people, there's a lot of work for you to do as well. So in this video, we're diving into 10 things anxious people subconsciously do a lot of the times, or innocently do. They think they're helping the relationship, but they're actually pushing their relationship, pushing their partner, the avoidant, further away. So you can stop blaming yourself and then just start loving yourself and understanding where you're coming from. So let's start loving smarter. Let's call it that. So let's go ahead and get in. And for those of you who are new to my channel, have a look around. My name is Sarah. I'm a mindset mastery coach, transformational hypnotherapist, and attachment style specialist. And I bring you videos on attachment styles, how to heal, and you make it a little bit of hypnotherapy. Actually, I'm going to be doing more videos on hypnotherapy because a lot of you have been reaching out asking for that. So hypnosis is one of my most favorite tools that I use with clients. It's so effective. I had a client actually that went from being very upset and very heartbroken and devastated over a breakup with her avoidant ex to moving on after working with me, and now she's in a new relationship. So you can move forward, you can move beyond this pain, and I can help you do that. All right, so 10 things that push avoidance away. Let's talk about this. Number 1, over communicating your feelings. Are you guilty of that? Thinking that you need to just go over it again and again and again. In particular, you did this, you did that, you made me feel this way. And really not taking any accountability for your role. A lot of the times what I hear an anxious woman say is, you don't make me feel safe. Guilty of that inside of my marriage. Now, while he could have done things differently to make me feel safer emotionally and even physically, it really was an inside job for me to make myself feel safe. I don't know if you can make yourself feel safe, but to learn how to feel safe inside of myself. But also it helps if you have a partner who is safe emotionally, who is safe physically, who is safe sexually, etc., etc. So let's say even over communicating your feelings too soon. A lot of times my anxious people, I've seen it with anxious men that I've dated in the past, they just want to sort of like put everything on the table right away. And maybe even sharing, like oversharing too quickly some of your personal story. It's not that your future partner or future spouse doesn't want to hear that. It's that it can be overwhelming in the beginning, and it can be a red flag to a secure person. It can indicate, hey, maybe this person, maybe they've got some anxious tendencies going on here underneath the surface, or maybe they're looking for somebody to fix them. So that's what it can indicate to a healthy attachment system. So when you've got big feelings, you want to share them. I get it. It's how you bond, right? It's how you connect. But to an avoidant, this can feel like a tsunami. It can feel like an absolute tsunami. What they need is an emotional slow drip, not everything at once. So think like a slow drip versus like, I'm trying to think, I'm not a coffee person, but like, I don't know, cappuccino, something that's like quick coffee pour. That's not what they need. Not like a fire hose. So it's not that your feelings are wrong here. It's that their nervous system can't process all this intensity up front. And sometimes even well into the relationship, they're still not able to process it, right? Let's move on to number 2, needing constant reassurance from your partner. In other words, not being able to give yourself that reassurance. This is sort of the hallmark, if I'm working with a client and I see this is the hallmark of an anxious attachment style. Not being able to give yourself the reassurance that you're seeking externally. So seeking external validation. This could look like asking your partner, what do you think? What do you want to do? And maybe even, or asking friends, like, what do you think? What should I do? And that can really create an erosion in those relationships because those people now feel responsible for your decisions. So let's say like in a relationship with an avoidant or just with anyone, it might look like this This is often what I hear from my anxious people. Do you still love me? And the avoidance, like, are you serious? Like, their nervous system is like, are you serious? I just took you out to dinner, or we just came back from vacation, I just fixed your car. How could you ask that? Do you still love me? Or are we okay? This is a classic one too. Did I do something wrong? And the avoidance, like, no. And to the avoidance nervous system, everything is fine because they've created a little bit of distance, or maybe they've stepped back. But to the anxious person's attachment system, that feels like a threat. Okay, closeness feels like a threat to the avoidant, distance feels like a threat to the anxious person. So to you, this might feel like staying connected, but to them, it can feel like an interrogation. It can literally feel like they're being interrogated, which is when they then shut down, dismiss your needs, dismiss your emotions, dismiss whatever, and just feel, and they may just shut the door and say, I need to be alone. Or they may leave and not tell you when they're coming back. They may dissociate, right? So avoidance didn't grow up with emotional safety. They don't know what that looks like. Nobody laid that out for them. Nobody explained that. Nobody was demonstrating that. So this kind of checking in actually triggers them to check out. You think you're checking in and they're like, I gotta go. Like, this is too much. You're relying on me too much is what's going on in their mind, okay? So number 3, reading between the lines. Oh, my anxious people. You may interpret something entirely differently than the way it was meant to be interpreted, right? We see things through our lens. That's why when you're triggered and you're pointing fingers and blaming the other person, you really need to stop and take a breath and look within, because that trigger lives inside of you, not the person who you're pointing the finger at. And I have to, remember that myself, working as a content creator in this world, like many of you. It's not about me, it's about your trigger. And if something I say triggers you, then by all means, let it trigger you, because we grow in the spaces, we grow inside of the triggers. Okay, so you're highly intuitive, maybe even psychic. A lot of anxious people have these very heightened intuitive abilities, right? But assuming meaning in their silences is very dangerous. It's dangerous territory, because you're creating a story inside of your head, and then you're attaching yourself to your emotions because you think they're real, but they're actually just fleeting and passing. They're not real. Thoughts aren't real. Emotions aren't real. You know what I mean? They're real, but they're not true. Let's say that. So you'll spiral. You start spiraling out of control. You start just going through all the things. They're cheating, they're doing this, they don't love me, they want out of this, And it becomes a cycle of you reacting to what you fear, not what's actually happening. This is so profoundly important to understand that you're doing this, and really think about your relationships and see if this makes sense and this is a cycle or a pattern that you've done. They feel like you're misreading them because you are, and you just feel like you can't stop spiraling. And this can create a ton of arguments, and just really can be really difficult to come back from, honestly, from this place. Number 4, making the relationship your everything. Making the relationship, like dropping friends. Let's say you were going to school, like going back to school or going to school, just forgetting about that, like just dropping everything in the name of this relationship, in the name of love. And again, making this person your everything, making this relationship your anchor, your safety. And this person's like, I don't know if I can deliver. They feel overwhelmed. Their nervous system gets flooded, inundated, and overwhelmed because they don't think they can live up to the hype that you've created. Now, they've created a hype. They've put you on a pedestal in the beginning. I've talked all about that on past videos. This video is about my anxious attachers and how to understand your patterns and how they're playing out and how they're affecting your avoidant partner, because it does work both ways. It's not one-sided, okay? I hear it all day long. The avoidant's a narcissist. The avoidant's just terrible person. It's like, if you actually studied the neurobiology, neuroscience of attachment, you would understand that's not true. Okay, you would maybe there's something else going on with that person, but you would understand that the root of this is childhood neglect, childhood trauma, addiction, parents' addictions, etc., etc. This is not about this person being a bad person, just like you're not a bad person. These are attachment styles that have formed for our safety, for our benefit, for our protection. Your subconscious is really running the show. So let's say if your partner becomes your elemental oxygen, which often happens in these relationships, you're going to, first of all, they're going to feel like they're suffocating because you're taking all of their oxygen, and you're going to feel like you can't get enough. And when you feel like you can't get enough from an external source, you're always going to be feeling like you're not getting enough. You're going to be exasperated. It is going to deflate both of you. The avoidant will literally choke. They admire independence. They do not like somebody suffocating them or relying on them for their feelings, or, I mean, they don't mind being relied on for material things or logical things. Like, can you put gas in my car, honey? You know, especially if it's an avoidant man. Not that avoidant women couldn't do that, but this is typically something I've seen avoidant men do, including my husband. Or something like, you know, like picking out your favorite snacks. Like, they don't mind doing things, but when it comes to emotions, like heavy emotions, that's where they're like, uh-oh, this doesn't feel safe. They feel safe when you feel solid in yourself. They feel safe when you feel solid in yourself. Otherwise, your neediness feels like a weight that they have to carry, a burden almost that they have to carry, okay? You need to learn to carry yourself. It's so important that we understand ourselves and that we can carry ourselves. Number 5, wanting to talk it out immediately. Do I really need to go into detail? They need space and you want to move forward. They're trying to move away and you want to move forward. They're moving away, you're moving forward. So wanting to talk it out immediately when what you really need to do is give the relationship and the argument room to breathe. I'm just going to leave that one there. Avoidants don't process their emotions by talking. They process it in silence. They're hyper independent. They like that sense of agency, and they really pride themselves on their sense of independence and autonomy. Let them have that. You guys just need to agree on a time where they'll come back, but you need to give them the space to breathe. It's important that they know that you trust them enough that they're going to come back, okay? That they're going to return. Number 6, chasing after they withdraw. So not being able to give them that space, or maybe you're able to give them that space, but then you start chasing because your anxious attachment system always wants to be on and their avoidant attachment system wants to be off. So you've got to meet somewhere in the middle where yours is on, but not all the time, and theirs is on, but not all the time. So you want to chase, they're going to retreat. It's a push-pull magnetic effect. So when they go silent, your inner child panics. She freaks out or he freaks out. They're gone forever. They don't love me. What's going on in their mind? And you start again making scenarios and stories in your mind. And you will spin a cycle of hell. You will create a hell inside of your own mind. And this can go on for hours or days, or I've seen it for weeks with anxious attachers. But chasing an avoidant is like running after a cat with like a broom or a vacuum cleaner, or, you know, something that they do not like, a noise that they do not like. They're going to literally run in the opposite direction. They need distance to feel safe again. So pursuing them, you think you're closing the gap. Pursuing an avoidant only widens that gap, only makes them want to run further and retreat more. So you're likely to get somebody who doesn't come back for a longer time now, because you have literally interrupted their process of rebalancing and restructuring, right? Inside of themselves. They need that time to disconnect so then they can bring their attachment system back online, and they often do it in little baby steps. So do not do that. Do not chase them. Number 7, asking where is this going to? And this is really for people who are just in the beginning stages with an avoidant. You're starting to date someone and you may identify them as an avoidant. Really just asking them, where is this going? Like kind of demanding, like, I need to know. You're craving certainty, they're craving freedom. Again, there's a meeting in the middle that needs to happen. So when you ask, you know, what are we, or are we official yet? Again, their nervous system feels triggered. They don't know how to answer that because maybe they don't even know what they want. They don't hear this as trust. They hear this as a trap, okay? Let the bond build naturally and then define it. You have to let the bond build. You have to be sure. Anxious attachers, how can you be sure this is your person? Give it space to breathe. Give it room to breathe. The other person, don't suffocate the person that you're falling in love with or you think you're falling in love with. Give it time and make sure that this truly is the bond that you want. Oftentimes, anxious attachers will just attach to the first person that's available. And again, that's dangerous. right? And you're without really getting to know the person, without really getting to know the dynamic or getting to know yourself inside of this relationship. You really need to have gone on a trip with this person, have met their family, their friends, have seen how they acted in certain or reacted in certain situations before you really decide this is my person, my ride or die that I want to be with. Take your time, anxious attachers. And avoidance, they may take too much time and be too indecisive. Again, we're trying to meet in the middle. Number 8, reacting too emotionally to their space. When you start to bring in a ton of emotions, or again, make them feel responsible for your emotions, especially like big demonstrations of emotions like tears, the avoidant person is going to be put off. It's not that they don't care. Their nervous system doesn't know how to handle this sort of thing. They say, I need space, and your brain screams, they don't love me, like this is over. But when you react with panic or guilt tripping or let's say protest behavior can be like throwing a temper tantrum. It confirms their fear that closeness isn't safe. It's an irony, right? You think, well, I'm going to prove to them my love. I'm going to prove it by chasing them. I'm going to prove it by being there. That's not how it works with an avoidant. That could work with a secure person. You don't need to prove your love, first of all. But secondly, the way that they're going to receive love is actually in the space between, in the distance, right? The space after something happens. It's in the breath that you take. It's in your ability to sit back and feel whole and safe inside of yourself. It's not in chasing them. It's not in, winning. This is not a game to the avoidant. This is their primitive nervous system is like, danger, danger. They will perceive you as safe when you give them the space that they're asking for. Instead, because they're going to think it's dramatic. Instead, hey, I'm here when you're ready. I love you, and I'm sorry that we argued, and I'm here when you're ready. And that's kind of what needs to happen here. Number 9, trying to fix the argument or the issue with logic. Let's say, oh gosh, my anxious clients, I love you guys. You send long texts or letters, and you think the avoidant person is going to be on your same emotional level, and they're going to receive it at this, like you're giving them what you need. This is what we all do. We're giving the person what we need. So you're giving them the letter, you're giving them the long text, the explanation to make yourself feel safe, because you want them to feel safe so that they then make you feel safe. But that's just not how it works in this dynamic. So you break down your feelings like you're giving a speech or a TED talk, you're like, and then I have exhibit A and XYZ and ABC and 1, 2, 3. And they're like, what? They don't understand emotions in that way. They don't process emotions in that way. Their nervous system isn't listening to logic. It's trying to survive, and it needs space and distance to breathe. So less is more. Emotionally attuned silence. Do you know what attunement is? Attunement is, coaches and therapists out there, you're going to know what attunement is, but it's, let's say if I get on a call with a client and the client's really anxious, I might just for a moment just kind of be there with them, like, yeah, oh, I get it. This is like nerve-wracking. And then as they start to calm down and I start to introduce techniques or breath work, guess what? I mirror them. It's attuning to where they are so that they feel safe. That's how we feel seen and heard and understood as humans, when someone is attuning to us, when someone can be there with us and hold that space. And I'm not saying like if somebody's it's a very weird noise. Okay, anyway, if somebody's really out of control, then you may not want to attune to that. But for the most part, like, where are they? And if they're calm, I'm gonna go, hi. Yeah, and my voice will change if they're excited. Oh my God, yeah, okay, yeah, tell me about it. Attunement, so that, but you're really there with them. And this is, through practice, and just really through observation of human behavior and knowing what people want and need. Like, what do you need and want when you're excited? You want the person, oh my God. When you're kind of like this, you're like, yeah, I get it. That's tough. Right? Or when you're rage, you're like, yeah, like fight the power, you want somebody there in your corner. So Emotionally attune with your partner. Learn to do that. It's so important. And for an avoidant, that feels like safe. That feels maybe even like home, dare I say it. So your 500-word messages, your TED Talks, your explanations, sending videos, sending links, sending whatever, posts is not going to get through to them. What does get through to them is just attune to where they are, be where they are. When they come back around, attune and notice. This is not about faking or wearing a mask. This is about learning to kind of be on the same level sometimes. And then hopefully they can learn to attune to you. They can, by the way, avoidance can heal. I see it all the time on social media. People have no idea about attachment work or attachment theory. They don't know their own attachments. They just want to label somebody, call them a narcissist, and move on. And then, oh my God, I dated another one. Well, that's because you didn't actually look inside. You didn't take any accountability or responsibility for your role. You just pointed and blamed that person without realizing what was really going on. There's a lot more at play than what meets the eye. Let's move on to the last point, number 10. Not having your own emotional anchor, right? So one of the points was making them your emotional anchor. This is not having your own emotional anchor. So it goes beyond that. You need to have your own emotional anchor when you're really truly rooted in yourself. And internal family systems, or IFS, it's called self, like that self-directed energy, or self-agency is how I like to describe it. Just empowerment. When you understand yourself and you have healthy boundaries and you say, this is something I will not tolerate. These are my non-negotiables. Guess what? People respect that just inherently. Think about it. When somebody, read a room, when somebody who's the confident person in the room, they have boundaries, they know who they are, they're not seeking outside of themselves. They don't have their tentacles out trying to siphon other people's energy, right? Subconsciously, because they know they've got their own energy and they're rooted in yourself. When you're not rooted in yourself, your avoidant partner will feel like they're your world. They will feel like they're responsible for everything that happens in your world and your day and your emotions. And it's not going to work because they don't know how to do that even for themselves. That's terrifying to an avoidant partner. So the safer and more confident and more secure and rooted you become within yourself, the deeper trust you're going to have, the more attunement you're going to have with your avoidant partner. Now, this is all to say, as I wrap this video up, I can just hear it now. Haters are going to go, Sarah, why do you defend the avoidance? And why is it all on the anxious person? It's not. I have plenty of videos on avoidant attachment, and I talk about the responsibility for both sides. But it's important that we understand you are not going to heal if you're anxiously attached by just saying, we just want to love, we just want to give love. And no. If you're anxiously attached, it's way deeper than we just want to love them. We just want to accept them. You have likely codependency wounds that need to be healed, which basically equate to control, right? The need for control in your own way. And you're also likely emotionally unavailable yourself. So there are things to address. Okay, there are things when you expect your avoidant person, your avoidant partner to be something they can't be. Think about that. Think about what that might do to a person or to a relationship. The avoidant person doesn't know how to be anything other than they are. And when you're pushing, and look, I did this in my marriage, guys. I'm speaking from experience. Constantly feeding him videos and articles and this and that, and let's go to therapy. And he was just overwhelmed. Probably what he needed more than anything from me was attunement. He needed to feel understood and respected. I wanted to work the problem out with logic, right? I'm sending him all this information, flooding his attachment system. By the way, he identifies as anxious. I found this out recently, even though he exhibits a lot of avoidant behaviors. So I'm going to honor and respect that. He knows himself better than I. Okay, so an anxiously attached person, I even did a video on this, that has avoidant behaviors. Absolutely possible. And I am fearful avoidant, healing and working on my fearful avoidant attachment. I wasn't always fearful avoidant, guys. In my 20s and early 30s, I identified strongly with anxious attachment. I mean, strongly, like all of these things. So I say all of these things with firmness, but with love, because I want you to heal. There are other coaches out there who are going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear to heal. That is why people work with me. I say, are you ready? Are you ready for the shift? Are you ready for people to maybe fade out of your life as you step into your power? Because this is about you moving forward. This is about you understanding that just because I was in a relationship with someone or even married to someone doesn't mean my life is over because that relationship didn't work out. What if we didn't look at endings as failures, but rather as lessons, as learning lessons for us? I am so grateful to my husband for what he taught me and for even the pain that was inflicted and caused and the triggers, most importantly, while they were wildly unnerving, right, during the process. I'm so grateful now because now that I've been through that, it led me back to myself, to a deeper understanding. And it led me right here back to my channel with you guys, creating content on attachment theory and attachment systems. And it led me to hypnosis so that I could get a deeper understanding of the subconscious, which runs our life and runs our thoughts and our show, by the way. So all of that to say that we are responsible, right? We are co-creators in this universe. Things don't just happen to us. Sometimes they do, but I'm talking about in relationships, right? We're co-creators and we are attracting at a subconscious level these partners. Take accountability. Look, you don't heal with blame. You don't heal by blaming. You heal by taking accountability. One of the most powerful things I did, and I'll leave you guys with this because this is a longer video, is I wrote my soon-to-be ex-husband, very soon-to-be ex-husband, I wrote him a letter and I sent it in the mail because I wanted to give space. I wanted room to breathe for both of us. I didn't want to be checking my email, expecting an instant reply, and I also didn't want him to feel pressured. We both have avoidant tendencies, so I wanted both of us to feel safe and pressured. But there were things that needed to be said, and it was for me to take accountability. For me to take accountability for my role in the destruction of that relationship. Not failure, but in the destruction, right? In the rubbish, what is it? Rubbish? Wreckage? I think I make up words all the time, thanks to my mom. And that freed me in a way that is hard to put into words. Now, as the relationship ends and is legally and officially ending, I'm going through a lot of sadness this month that you guys aren't seeing behind the scenes. It's extremely painful. I do not harbor any ill will or anger anymore towards this person. Once in a while, kind of a little bit of like, ugh, still bubbles up, but I'm really pointing it back at myself. Oh, take accountability, Sarah. He's not a horrible person. I'm not a horrible person, but we do horrible things to each other when we're in the anxious-avoidant trap and when we don't understand our attachment wounds or our childhood wounds or really even who we are, when we don't claim our sense of self-agency. I'm here to bring you back to yourself, guys. And if you're interested, stay tuned because I have a brand new website coming, hopefully the end of this month, early next month, as well as several things I'm working on behind the scenes, an amazing course to help bring you back to yourself, bring you back the confidence, and finding love again is totally possible. So I send you guys all my love and support. And please know that even though I'm more of a tough love coach, I am a tough love coach. I have a lot of compassion and I have been where you are. I've sat where you sat, so I understand. But I also know that what pulled me out of that wasn't playing the victim and it wasn't blaming and pointing my husband. It was looking at myself. And by the way, in that letter I wrote him, there was no, you did this, you did that. It was me. This is what I did. This is what I could have done differently. This is what I'm sorry for. It was totally me taking accountability and I would do it all over again. So think about that. And maybe that's not something you do, but that was right for me. Maybe you write it and never send it, or maybe you're able to have a conversation in person. But it's not about blaming. Where does blame ever get anybody? Where does, oh, I'm scared, I'm gonna live in fear. Where does that ever get us, right? What message does that send out? That vibration of fear, it's a frequency. Let's have the vibration of healing, moving forward for both people. Don't you want that person to heal? Don't you want more healed people in the world? Because I sure do. I would love my ex-husband to heal for his kids, for his 3 kids, for anybody that comes into his life in the future, for him, 100%. And sometimes love looks like that. Sometimes love looks like walking away and living separately. And that's the best thing that you can do for the person that you love. Take care, guys.